call this roundtable council agenda their meeting to order here at 6 p.m. in our city council room. Pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, we do not.
And we have no remote attendance. Roll call, please.
Sorry, I can't move my table. We're kind of packed in here a little bit. Okay. Alderman Williams.
Present.
Macias. Wentz.
Present.
Timian.
Present.
Moyer.
Present.
O'Brien.
Present.
Waldron.
Present.
Schmidt.
Present.
Here, we move to our oath of office for the appointment of Stephen Heisen to the rank of Police Deputy Chief effective August 8, 2022.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Well, first, I'd like to thank Chief Snyder for allowing me some time to promote someone. And it's hard to find a time on the agenda that the fire department wasn't here and all their dress. So, thank you. I appreciate it. As you know, Council, I've been before you in the past couple of months about our staffing troubles and the nationwide exodus and senior command leadership across the country, and it affected Moline as well. We lost 159 years of police executive leadership in the last 3 years. While I have the utmost confidence and faith in our staff, it's certainly a heavy responsibility that I have to make sure that the city of Moline has well-trained and seasoned administrative experience to lead our department in the future, especially during these tough times in law enforcement. And I also have a responsibility to our staff to put them in a position to succeed. We have a plan to do that for our up-and-coming staff members, bringing in executive level leadership later this year and next year, and exposing them to new experiences to try to get them to the level of deputy chief or wherever they want to take their careers. Steve came along at a perfect time for the city of Moline to come here and provide some outstanding leadership and help us move the agency forward to continue our path and our hopes to be the best police agency in the Midwest. The biggest mistake the sheriff made was taking a vacation day on June 7th. Steve came to a meeting in his place, sat next to me, and I said, "Hey, how are you doing?" "Pretty good." And I said, "How much longer are you going to work?" "I don't know. The end is near." "Well, how near?" And as fate would have it, that was the last conversation that it took really to get him here to the city of Moline. He retired about 5 weeks later, and then started here last week in the Moline Police Department. Stephen Heisen comes to us with 30 years of policing experience. He came from the Kelowna Police Department in 1992 and then transitioned to the Sheriff's Police in 1993, where he served until July of this year. During his time working for the sheriff, he was a K-9 handler, an FBI Special Federal Officer, Chief Investigator, Patrol Lieutenant, Captain of Operations, and a SWAT operator, a member of the Integrity Task Force, and a graduate of the FBI National Academy in 2015. In 2014, Sheriff Bustos appointed him to Chief Deputy, which makes him the second in command of the Sheriff's Department, an agency in total larger than ours with the jail operations and their Sheriff's Department. So he has ample experience, ample education and command experience to come here and provide us that leadership needed at the Moline Police Department and the busiest police department in the Illinois Quad Cities. Steve, as I mentioned, 30 years of policing experience and 21 years of command experience, 10 years at the administrative level. So I'm really excited to present to you today Stephen Heisen. We are overtaking the Heisens from the northern part of Whiteside County area. So pretty excited. He's here tonight with his son Cale. His other son Carter just took off to college at Iowa State last week. His dad Vernon, his wife Dawn. And so I'm very excited to have him here, and I'd like to have the mayor administer the oath of office.
I, Steve Van Huysen,
Stephen Van Huysen,
having been duly appointed to the rank of Deputy Chief of the Police Department
having been duly appointed to the rank of Deputy Chief of the Police Department
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the constitutions of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Illinois,
and the state of Illinois,
will strictly adhere to the compiled statutes of the state of Illinois,
will strictly adhere to the compliant statutes of the state of Illinois,
the Moline Code of Ordinances,
the Moline Code of Ordinances,
and any Illinois rules of professional conduct
and any Illinois rules of professional conduct
applicable to police administration,
applicable to police administration,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the rank of Deputy Chief of the Police Department
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the rank of Deputy Chief of the Police Department
for the city of Moline, Illinois,
for the city of Moline,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
So as the Moline Police Department 3-star signifies the rank of Deputy Chief, I'm going to pin the collar brass on Steve. Congratulations. And I'd like his wife Dawn to come forward, pin on the badge.
I appreciate this opportunity and ever grateful for Darren. Darren, along the way, we've been able to work together, and he's been a mentorship to me along the way. We've co-worked together on many different projects, and I'm excited. I hope to bring, again, some experience and opportunities for the younger group to come up. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Next, we have a presentation, Mr. Successful.
Good. That way it's on camera, I think.
This is recognition and appreciation of Fire Chief Jeff Snyder's years of service to the city of Moline, Illinois.
Fire Chief. Yes, sir. Anyhow, a little over a year ago, I had an opportunity to come to the city of Moline. Probably the first two people I met, Chief Snyder and Chief Galt. Still there? How do you find me? Yeah, there you go.
He never did it.
No. Anyhow, so that's how it all began. It began with a car ride with two illustrious chiefs. Two great guys, you know, and they were probably the greatest sales agents that you had, other than the back and forth that was going on, which was more controlled than the sun, much more controlled environment. But having met the two gentlemen, and having worked in city government for decades, I knew you had two really great chiefs. There was no argument, no question about it. Great departments, great staff. So there was a young man in that car who joined me back on August 29th of 1989. He was a young man who grew into be a chief. He's still a young man. He's got more hair than me and he's bald. So somewhere along the line, he knew how to do it right. Right?
gives me the greatest honor, the greatest privilege to present Jeff with this recognition, which is presented to Jeffrey Snyder, Chief, in recognition of your service to the city of Moline from August 29, 1989, to the date of the departure, which is August 29, exactly, 2022, 2 years later. So, with that, I want to wish you luck in your retirement. Don't be a stranger to the city of Moline. Volunteer to help the incoming chief, Steve Reagan, in his troubles moving forward. You know, there will be good times and bad times, the future chief. But if you follow the lead of this chief, the fire department will be great. No question, we've got a great department, built with great people, and a lot of great leadership. So with that, I wish you well in your retirement. Thank you very much.
Well, I won't look at Margaret, for fear that we both cry. I'm humbled by this recognition and very appreciative. When you get to this point, and several of us have done it in city government, you start to see a lot of your career in the rearview mirror, and you start to revisit some of the experiences and the opportunities that I've had to represent the citizens of Moline. Amazing opportunities, and we forever thankful to both this body and the taxpayers that provided me those opportunities. Most importantly, I'd really like to thank my wife, Emily, who, as I rose through the ranks and the time commitments of my duties increased, I got nothing but support. Thank you.
Thank you.
We move to our roundtable discussion on biannual fee review. Turn it over to you, Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Your Honor. In front of you, you should find the calendar that we're going to use tonight. We also sent you an electronic copy last week. The summary is a summary page that has a lot of blue lines moving down to the very back of your book. And this is primarily what we're going to be using tonight as we work through this. And before we get started, I'm just going to take a couple of minutes and kind of go through a little bit of an overview and a history with you. Historically, the city conducts a comprehensive fee review of all business licenses and user fees every couple of years. And over the last 60 days, departments were requested to review all of their city-imposed fees and render a recommendation for council's consideration. So that's where we are tonight. Past practice for implementing fees have been to cover up to 100% of the city's costs to provide the service. This is not a tax, like property tax is on all citizens. Fees are strictly limited to the users of those services, and it's basically just the cost of doing business. Our goal is to establish a fee so that we break even, or come close to breaking even on providing given service. Fees that we're going to be reviewing tonight and across the city board have not been implemented solely to generate revenue. There is always a service associated with that. The last fee review that came before council was back in 2018. In 2020, we had no fee increases due to COVID. We just said that was not the right time to be looking at the fees, and so we passed on it in 2020. Most fees have not been updated since 2015 and 16. So it's a minimum of 7 years that a lot of these fees have seen any increases at all. Departments citywide reviewed about 150 fees that are on your sheet. And they are recommending council consider about 53 of them that are highlighted in blue. And that's going to be our focus tonight, is the ones highlighted in blue. It's about a third of all the fees total. staff recommended fee increases if you were to accept or approve our recommendation would generate about $385,000. That's primarily in the general fund and the water utility. The 53 fees that we'd like to review, as I said, are highlighted in blue, and Janine will be taking a roll call after each one of the fees are discussed. So if you want to approve it or you want to stand down.
Actually, we're gonna, would you like to explain how we thought about doing it?
Yeah, I think that what we were going to do is instead see if we have an motion to approve the fees as presented, and then if there are certain ones that you'd like to pull out for discussion in a separate vote, that was the way we had talked about doing it this evening.
Okay, I apologize for that.
No problem, I would.
You didn't help me.
No, that's absolutely fine. And in lieu of the time, if we had reviewed all 53 of them, if you said 3 minutes per fee, you'd be here for about 3 hours. So I was going to say, we need to keep moving along, so this is a very good process that will help you define. But regardless, you are certainly free to answer or ask questions on any of the fees that we want to do our best to get around. And then, just so you know, ordinances will be updated for all approved fee changes and brought forward for council's approval beginning on September 13th, if there are any fees that council wants to see. And staff is recommending an effective date of January 1st of 23. And again, we can talk about that if you want to see a different date. And any fee increases, if we shoot for January 1st, will be included in the 23 budget that we are going to bring forward this year in the next 60 days. And then lastly, on pages 80 and 81, at the back of the summary, you'll find a couple of summary sheets that the library and parks put together that your boards have already approved. We're not going to go through those tonight, but just so you know that FYI are included. And then I want you to know up front that staff is preparing a separate presentation on proposed user fees for all of our enterprise funds. And we plan that for September 20th for the roundtable. And that will include water, WPC, stormwater, and sanitation. And as we begin tonight, Keith, I want you to know, Keith took the lead on coordinating this open review with all the departments. And he will be assisting them as they make their individual presentations.
Take it away.
Well,
Or do you have questions already?
well, I was just wondering, are we going to go ahead and go down the line, or are we going to first make a motion?
I'll make a motion to
Second.
All right, there's a motion by Alderman Moyer, seconded by Alderman O'Brien. Discussion? Mr. Daniel?
Line 72, there is no change. There's an increase, typo, or will this be reflected in the final motion, or that's water tap name, small diameter, 110 to 110. It looks like it's a very small increase.
They're recommending it go up to 130 on page 72, just not updated on that.
Other questions? Mr. Schmidt, thank you for doing that, ma'am.
Yeah, now I'm a little confused. If there's some we want to, should we just identify one, then we'll finish conversation on that one and move on, or if it's changed? Okay. I'd like to, I'll start with the easy one. Pigeon licenses. I have no problem with proposals or anything on the change. I just wanted a little background, I guess. Is that something that is, like, that we've seen a need? I just kind of want to know where that was coming from.
It's under
Yes, so we have a resident that lives on 23rd Avenue B. He was housing pigeons, and doing it for a couple of years, and he's been operating under an animal dealer's license to accommodate it. And I've since reached out to him to get more information about pigeons and all the aspects of raising pigeons, and he no longer is raising pigeons. One thing I do want to mention, if we do adopt it, we have other, I contacted other Illinois cities that had it on the ordinance. They didn't realize they had it in the ordinance, and no demand for it. But the good news, if we do add it, it will be there in case someone wants to participate. But one thing about the license wheel mandate, they have to be a member of a national organization. So it's not just someone that doesn't know what they're doing, to be certified in raising pigeons, whatever they do with pigeons. Yeah.
So this was an issue that we brought up. Yeah, and so is there an ordinance that's going to come?
That's how I understand it.
We would write it, we would prepare it.
I believe Janine and I had briefly talked about that.
Yeah, this has been going on for a couple years.
Yes. Yes. Right here.
So we are going to be prepared to recommend
Question?
So it's kind of part toward, I mean, is the idea that we put this in, then when we get the ordinance, we decide that this makes sense, or we need to change it, do that.
I have well, there's a couple cities that I have copies of their ordinances. So I was going to draft off of North Aurora, Illinois. One thing unique about them is they put a limit on how many pigeons you can have per license, so it's a max of 20.
But Mr. Burbeck, so we did it in the details on the 13th, but the idea is that you did just say to us, because other places have the fee on the books, but there's nothing happening with it, so we can put the fee on the books with all of those things, and then we'll bring it forward, and then it's all there. Other questions?
I got one more. And I don't know that I have a major change I'd like to propose. This is something I want us to have discussion about, and that is looking at rental inspections overall, like page 32, if anyone's playing along. When I look at this, I have a gut instinct that says we should do away with rental inspection. And the reason for that is that this is something we want as a service to the tenants who live in our city. It is something we are making sure is happening as a protection for them. And if we remove that fee, it might make it much easier to understand that it's not getting passed on to those tenants when they're signing on to a new lease, but it's not going to just get passed on to them specifically, as well as ensuring that people and the landlords are not trying to dodge it and then not letting us in there when it's easier to just let in for that pre-inspection. I don't know if it's a high enough fee to cause a big problem for that, but it was a conversation I wanted to have and see others' opinions on it.
I would disagree. If we're providing a service, if we're sending the fire department, whoever there to do these inspections, I'm not sure that $15.75 or whatever we're charging is actually covering cost anyway. And I'm all about a fee covering our cost. And so I respectfully disagree. We should charge it and make sure we're charging the right amount.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this ties into where we're getting with converting from this to a license, which there's a little bit more teeth in I mean, quite honestly, I've been paying this for a number of years on a inspection, and it may have been inspected once in 13 years. So I don't think you run into any issues with landlords at these prices where it's like, oh, well, then I'm going to raise my rent for all, and it's de minimis in the grand scheme of the budget. I think it does begs the question of, yeah, okay, we can do this, and we're doubling the cost of some of them, and maybe get some complaints on that, you know. But you got some of the larger ones where it only goes up $50, but if we're really going to be inspecting 50 units, you know, $250 for that, $150 for doing a sixplex. I mean, they don't seem to really line up if we're being charged for actual inspection. I know that some places will do like a flat, you know, a fee to go out to the unit, and then a fee per unit in the building. Because then it actually translates to what it's going to be. It's like so it might be $100 show fee, and then anything over 5 units is $5 per unit or something like that. That seems to correlate more with proportionate if we're actually doing the inspections. But quite honestly, I'm not really sure. I've always been a little confused. I think it's like if you're an A property, a B property, a C property. If your property's in good repair, they may look at it, drive by, and maybe never come back, or drive by it 5 years later and say, yeah, still looks pretty good. And so I think that whole section needs to be looked at. But I think getting rid of it, I don't think that's going to change.
I have a question about the timeline that you're thinking of. I heard you say January 1st. I think I see the sensitivity to the borderline or whatever, however the economist choice labels the economic climate we're in, but we're in a recession or not. Do you see any benefit to delaying the fee increase to get past where we are and decrease the impact on our community as well? I realize some of these fees don't impact everyone, right? It's not universal. But can you just maybe fill us in on the timeline?
I mean, mainly our thought was that the fees had not been raised for a long period of time, so absolutely, I mean, when it's not able to raise rates, I think we're 8.1 to 8.5% inflation. We have not yet completely gotten through the 3-year budget that we're going to be proposing to council. And although revenues have come back in the current year, I don't know if they're going to be sustainable. And so as we continue to offer services, we're trying to balance the budget as well. But certainly, we do not have to implement these fees at that time. Just thinking since it hadn't been done for a while, that January 1 would be a clean day from a budget perspective.
Yeah, I understand that. And I wasn't saying, like, you don't do this at all. I was thinking, is there 3 months? Do we need a little bit more time, or 6 months? Wait, or does it really just need to happen if everything's balanced? It sounds like you're telling me, if it is balanced, it should happen in January.
It would be helpful to balance the budget.
The only other reason is because we're in the middle of renewals on certain licenses, so if we did it, say like deer hunt, right now we're in the process of registering these deer hunters. So we figure January is a brand new year, that's our fiscal year, and everyone will be on notice, most of our user fees, so you don't have to participate.
Okay, thank you.
Since we're talking about the electrical inspection, do we have an idea of when we may be coming back with alternatives from inspections to licenses? That I know we've talked about it. I don't know if we've ever made the official vote for that. That's in Indiana. But I know that we've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion. In fact, I know we're going through the process of actually finalizing the job descriptions for inspectors. There was a lot of gymnastics, so to speak, in terms of how to balance who we have on staff and what we need on staff in order to deliver results either as a current ordinance or a revised ordinance. So, I know Margaret can speak to the ordinance, but I know Leah and I and Joe will back, if I'm not mistaken. pretty much have that. That's ready to go forward. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts. The concrete on the program is one of them. The rental house inspection as well. You know, and who was to do what? You know, and it kind of bounces around. So what we're doing through the process of defining jobs is who's going to what specifically and when into the report. So we've worked through that process. As we're working on it, we're done with that. You know, and then any updates to the ordinance. I don't believe that's good.
I can tell you that on our housing working group, we inquired on that, and Mr. Beeman gave us a little bit of information on those types of programs, but I think what I'm hearing from these vantage points are, we need to have these as the employee, and we need to have a conversation about the how-to. And so, as soon as you can tell us when the employee is here.
Liz, you want to speak?
He does.
Stage of that, or Joe, because I mean, obviously we spent a lot of time working on it.
So we have two positions, anyone forward at the August 30th meeting.
There you go.
So with that being said, I mean, like, this is under fire right now, and my guess is that it's probably not going to be under fire once we have a manager in place, right? So, yeah, the question, I mean, I don't have any problem with where this, but my guess is it would change again once we, because right now, this is based on fire marshal driving by. I mean, I know some of them are in worse shape than others, so that they have to go on multiple inspections, but my guess is that's all going to change. So, I mean,
the intent is for it to change, that the fire department, like in other cities, is additionally responsible for like safety code inspections, because that's really what they do. You know, on those, exactly, you know, and we ran into that in the waterfront, with all that water down, that was just a little mess. But it worked. We put together, we got that worked out. You know, in terms of the rental housing program, and the coordinator position that we're looking at, somebody who's actually going to run this program to make sure that it's being done administratively, and then inspectors are going to actually do the inspection. Make sure that inspections are being done annually, as they should. And then we, of course, collaboration with fire department, like safety center. So we're bringing that back, basically, the structure, reorganize it, and then bring it to the
when you talk about the inspections, I mean, like Rock Island, they've got an inspection program where somebody goes in and they inspect, like, I mean, that's not what's on our books right now. That's what we're hiring this person, and then we're going to pass the code to do it? Or are we going to, I just don't want a situation where we hire somebody, and then if the council doesn't pass the code, then what are they expecting?
Well, I mean, that's a valid point. I think our intention is to make sure that the inspections that are required are getting done. In order to have good inspections, we have to have the staff to do it. That's been an issue all along. You know, and our goal would be is to make sure that the ordinance itself, which chapter is that, Margaret? You know?
87200.
Yeah. Chapter 8.
Chapter 8. Thank you. So, I mean, any ordinance amendments that need to be brought forward would have to be brought forward. And I think those are policy decisions, but, you know, we still have the issue of conducting these inspections. If we even talk about single-family inspections that are rented properties, you know, and that's something that I don't believe is being done.
And I'm all for that, but what we have on the code is just basically kind of this drive-by and fails. And
It's
so
unusual. I will say this, as a veteran in business, that's unusual. Drive-by, sixplex, everywhere I've ever worked, you know, there are annual inspections that people physically on site, right? And that's how it should be done. Just simply drive-by is just
and I'm not, I mean, I've been arguing this for a long time, you know, but I just, it's the cart before the horse thing. I mean, if we're hiring people to do some inspections that aren't even in our ordinance.
Well, obviously, we'll have to take this back.
I think we need to bring it back. I mean, it's one of those things that we know needs to be done. You know, we identified some of the inadequacies
maybe what you do.
Yeah, so I think the intention is the rental housing coordinator was approved in our budget last year. That person's going to work with fire, with police, with inspection, be that go-to for everything landlord related, tenant related. It'll funnel through them, out and back through. The inspector was also approved, but he was approved as a neighborhood improvement officer. So until the ordinances are in place, and even after that, that person is going to not only do rental inspection, but assist with neighborhood improvement. So that whole side of code enforcement is kind of developed top to bottom. They're all going to learn the court system, the compliance issuing and all that. So it's a team over there essentially, and until the rental housing ordinance is changed where people want it to be, then they're going to continue to work together as a coordination with the fire and police department, with inspections, with the community, and then also the neighborhood improvement officer. So that's the intent as far as we have to lay out right now.
Thank you very much. Any other questions about these fees as proposed?
One of the things, we've talked about this a couple of times about the mobile home park. We hadn't been enforcing our ordinance down there a few years ago, so we need to update our ordinance to bring it into the referencing things from 1967 and 1974, and so we updated it, but we updated it, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, and then COVID hit, and so we really haven't done the inspections and all that kind of stuff. It has $100 for the park, but $3 per space. I think a lot of other communities have that at $5 a space. I think that's what Rock Island has. I think it's something, it's line 55. I mean, with some of the problems we've had with our mobile home park, with the flooding that it had a couple of years ago, with the sewage treatment not working, with the electricity going out down there and all that kind of stuff, I'd like to up that to $5. I don't know if that's enough, but to make sure that, to show staff spend more time down there and really find out what's going on and make sure that works is covered. Yeah, I'll make an amendment to agree to $5.
That was line 55, Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
So is there a second? Second by Alderman Williams. Discussion on this amendment. Hearing none, all in favor? You're flipping through.
Yeah, I need to get to it. I'd like to be able to review that, to understand that part of it. All right, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Amendment passes. Back to the motion, which is to accept the deficit.
And I apologize, Keith, you had replied back to me. I started to write an email back to you, but didn't get it done. So regarding the terminal, I guess it's line 21, the video game terminal operator, that was the one where we got fairly creative last year because the state statute changed that said that the terminal operator had to be split between the owner of the terminal and the local establishment. And I think last year what we wound up doing was we said the local establishment could get a credit for sales tax paid during the previous year, or whatever it was. But basically for anybody who was really operating a bar or a restaurant, there would be enough to cover their $900 of that. We wound up, I think, just giving them a kind of a check back, and then they paid.
Because we were in the middle of the renewal process, we decided too late to apply. Bills already went out, we were already paying. So we did a refund. We refund all establishments $900 per machine if they qualify with the sales tax requirement. The only ones that didn't know the rules, they came.
And that's great. My concern is moving forward because of that state statute. I think you said moving forward, we're going to send a lower bill out to them?
Well, what we would like to do, because right now it's separated $50 establishment per machine, and then it was originally $1,800 on the video terminal operators. Well, with the state statute where they got to equally share the cost of licensing, we thought we might as well just merge it into one video gaming license. There's no reason to have a establishment versus the terminal operator. And then just go back to the $50 was back in the day when we had amusement devices, and that's how that got established. So to clean it up, just bring it back to 1800 where it was amended to. And then when we bill it this year, we'll bill it to the terminal operator, $1,800, and then it'll say less flight credit of $900 that the establishment is already offered.
Is that sufficient to meet the state statute? That they're not going to make the argument that says, well, there was a credit, so now it's $450, $450?
No, we have
Okay.
How has this been received by the establishments? Because I know there was some confusion initially, because it did require a little bit of creative thinking, even just for all of us to wrap our head around it. So are the establishments on board with it? Are they not complaining about when was a perceived increase, but actually not? I think, and Janine can speak to the ones I spoke to, the small mom taverns, they were relieved that they were receiving the 900 credit. So that was not the issue. I don't know if you had any issues with any of them.
I think from what I had heard from them, striking the $50 fee will make it much simpler because that was a little bit of an issue. And then they like the idea, thanks Bob, they like the idea of the credit because like Keith said, it was too late last year so they received a check. But we really didn't have any negative comments. They were all positive. They appreciated the credit.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, the one last one, and I appreciate Ryan and I went back and forth with this. With the PUD, I'm okay with keeping it. But number 30, well, yes, they're all line 35.
Preliminary
number
PUD,
35?
final PUD.
Yeah, I appreciate that I think Ryan's going to go through and try to streamline that PUD process and bring it back so that we can eventually reduce that fee. The way that our ordinance is written right now, it's fairly cumbersome. There's a lot of mailings and multiple notices and multiple hearings and those sorts of things. So I appreciate you working on that to get that to the finish. But as our ordinance is written right now, unless they make a change, that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Anything further? Okay, so we are ready to vote to approve these fees as amended. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. We move then to our non-consent agenda resolution, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. A non-consent resolution is Council Bill 1135-2022, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to and make certain certifications and assurances related to the Federal Railroad Administration's Railroad Crossing Elimination Program grant requirements and supporting a grant application to the Federal Railroad Administration for the Railroad Crossing Elimination Program, and authorizing an agreement to hire the Ferguson Group for professional services at a cost of $20,000 for preparation and submission of said grant application to the Federal Railroad Administration for the Railroad Crossing Elimination Program.
Alderman Simeon, seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Discussion?
Aye.
Oh, wait, this is.
Yeah, roll call, thanks.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Timian?
Aye.
Moyer?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Waldron?
Aye.
Schmidt?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Macias?
Aye.
Went?
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, and that motion passes. First reading ordinances. Council Bill 3019-2022, an ordinance amending Chapter 35 zoning and land development, Division 8 adult use cannabis businesses, Section 35-3801, uses permitted in zones of the Moline Code of Ordinances to allow cannabis dispensaries as a special use in areas located in the NC Neighborhood Central District and the Cannabis Dispensary Overlay Districts, and to revise internal cross-references.
Motion to approve. Second.
This is first reading. Did you want to, unless you want to waive the second reading?
Move to approve. Yeah, well, I'll withdraw that one.
Okay.
Alright, so that ends our first reading for business, and that's our normal business, we're going to do miscellaneous business. I have an advertisement here, if you're interested in volunteering for, the collection of stand down for veterans, they need volunteers, this is the Thursday, September 15th to 17th. And so you can take a look at this before you leave today. I wanted to let you know that this morning, myself and several staff were present at the I-80 Clean Fuel Corridor meeting, or convening of partner parties. Thank you to Director Zoe for presenting. And I think, our partnership with MetroLink, they've led the way in a lot of the clean fuel side of things. We are leading the way as well with some of our vehicles. And so I was very proud that you all had, Sarah Mark had vehicles there to show off to the variety of people that were there. And so I'm excited that we are exploring our environmental sustainability options in varieties of ways and taking advantage of some of the federal programs that are about to launch, and making sure we have the resources to do that. So Mr. Butez can always give us more update on that at some point. Forthcoming. I also just wanted you to know that I've had conversations with Mr. Butez and Mr. Beatlow and the Human Rights Commission and a couple other people, because I was double checking through our strategic plan, looking at some issues we're facing, and noticed that we don't have any sort of equity plan to help us cross-reference or cross-check any of the items we have in our strategic plan with whether we are really looking at them with an equity lens. We have done something like the PCI, the Human Condition Index. That's an equity-based, like, operationalization of equity. But I think we need to double check that work, and in order to not layer on so much more work on our staff that's executing the large strategic plan already, I've talked with Stavros about having the Human Rights Commission, and talked with them especially, having them start some of the legwork of reading up on it, finding examples, et cetera, so they can make some recommendations. And just working in partnership with our staff who understand that, and also translate that into some sort of equity index that anyone can look up and see where the areas of opportunity are within our town to create more equity. I just wanted to give you that update that I think we need a tool, and that's in the works. And that's all for me.
So how would that work? I mean, that's something that would then come as recommendations to the council? Is that something where they
It's like a
give directions to
resolution.
staff?
It was like a resolution that we would adopt, that, that every department would look at certain, or in all the systems they're doing, and make sure they sort of look at the checklist of whether we're creating equity or creating inequity with whatever thing we're voting on, right? It's a double check on our core values, where we did think that we were going to approach things with equity.
I just don't, it's
Yeah,
a mechanism.
it's just a double check, so that it's a resolution that we adopt as an organization to be used by everyone. we'll get more to go. Through the HRC and through the Okay. Mr. Williams.
Your Honor, just that we're losing a very good fire chief, and had an opportunity to work with him throughout the years. He's a swell guy, and we will be sorely missed.
Nothing more. Ditto on the chief. A couple of things. I don't know if you guys saw Comedy Sports put out a press release today that they are coming back, and they are going to be located in Moline at the Spotlight Theater. So that is a huge win for Moline. They plan to have every Friday and Saturday night starting in November shows. I think we're having junior prom at the Scottish Rite down below the big theater. They're going to be doing it down there. So that's a big win for Moline, and that coming back to watch during the pandemic, and they've got some changes in owners, but I think they'll have the same player, so that's terrific. Also want to say congratulations and terrific job on getting that grant for 7th. That's a huge thing for the city. Looking forward to Complete Streets really digging into that, and I think it really shows that getting our multimodal transportation, getting a plan together long term, because ultimately there's going to be some brand new pavement down there that's going to wind up getting torn up to do this the right way, and so that's why getting these plans in place so that when future projects happen, they get done the right way the first time. And so congratulations to staff for that, for doing that. That's going to be transformational and setting the entry down and sooner will also be the path down there. So, and then the last thing is, I know we had some direction and talk with staff about, we're in the next few weeks, we're going to be making some determinations on doing stuff in our right-of-way and those sorts of things, poles and that kind of stuff. I had sent some ideas over to staff in the last week. I'll send them out to you guys as well, for you guys to approve, but I'd like to have some further discussion on that on the 30th, because the chicken and the egg, if we're going to go down this route, we've got to make sure that we get our ducks in a row before Bill out starts happening. That's all you remember.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd just like to thank the city for, there's a survey on Facebook and on the city website about bikeways and asking for feedback from residents, and I just think that I really appreciate the effort being put in to incorporate users of the bike path into planning. And so I just want to express my gratitude for that.
Speaking of right away, have you heard anything back from my guy? I think that maybe we're going to check it, but I don't remember.
92.
The Illinois 92 quarter, we had any conversations with Dreyer with respect to any improvements that the state may be staging or planning for.
We started working during the fall. That far, eastern portion corridor is only parking point of apartments. So preliminary engineering. Okay. I'll take it.
We're going to take it.
That's right, we'll take it and get it. I'm loath to inviting the local elected officials today at the state fair, as it was, I guess, the city picnic is this Saturday, is that right? If I won't be there, I'll be in Springfield.
Represent us
I'm inviting you all to come down.
Wear that orange shirt.
I've already got an orange shirt. But thanks.
Mr. Waldron.
Two items. I will not be here on the 30th. I will be doing my annual fishing trip. I have a question, though, about the cannabis change. Are there any current applicants that this change will affect? In other words, are we making this change for a potential applicant?
I think we can both jump in on that. I think it's fair to say that it was Bivouac who saw the shortcoming in the ordinance based upon the process that we had started months ago with an applicant, and nobody actually saw it.
So the answer is yes.
The answer is that there is an applicant who, as a result of this, will be able to see through the planning commission, through the public hearing process in order to get the approval in the overlay zone. Correct.
I will not be here on the 30th. Please remember that. We rarely change an ordinance to placate someone who's an applicant. I've got the floor, Mayor. In this case, I've got it. We rarely change it. As we all know, I'm against cannabis completely, so this lends itself to what I'm after. But remember, we are changing our ordinance for one applicant, who, I might remind you, had obligations under that development, the Dolan development up there. They completed phase 1. As far as I know, phase 2 has never been touched. Remember that when you vote on the 30th.
Can we clarify, Bill, what was in the attachment regarding the mistake that was there that does?
Or was it a mistake? Well, yeah.
Mr. Maitland has the floor, thank you.
Staff did an analysis of the overlay district. What stood out to staff was the uptown overlay district. Almost every single property that is in the uptown overlay district would not be allowed to have the cannabis use.
Great.
Under the current zoning, even though it was placed within the overlay district. So, and furthermore, if you look on the Avenue of the Cities, the area around 27 is also another area that was specifically called out within the overlay district, but the underlying zoning, as the ordinance is written now, would have prohibited any type of cannabis use. So there is a bit of a mismatch between why there would have been these overlay districts that were created when the underlying zoning would have prohibited it at all. But it would be the question to ask them, then just don't have the overlay districts. So staff has announced, did an analysis on that and looked back at minutes, and it appeared that these were the areas the council decided, these are the areas in the city where we are comfortable having these uses, and so we wanted to ensure that the zoning lined up with that.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you, Your Honor. Though not the first, I did want, well, maybe be the last this year, to thank Chief Snyder for his service. I know as someone who came in brand new just over a year ago, his welcoming demeanor and his helping to introduce to how to work through the city and how to make things happen was very welcome and was something I'll be very much missing in the future. So thank you, Chief.
And I have one last thing as we're talking about IDOT. Not only did they announce the grant, but they also announced what's in their I won't say the wrong thing. I believe it's capital built project. And phase 2 of the John Deere Road I-74 engineering has been funded, but it looks weird in the documentation because they talked about US 6, but I wanted you to know that engineering has been funded. It's just labeled here, so I've been in touch with our person that you have to double check that that's all correct, and he assured me through IDOT that that's all correct.
Is that the diversion then? Are they then also going to do 27 underneath?
You can double check. Staff, do you have any
Yeah, let me, first of all, it's great to have Barry here. He's still out meeting everybody, and there's a lot of use to meet. I think in-house, he's had the opportunity to probably up to 70% of all the directors and get out there and build with a lot of people. We've got a little ways to go yet. Then there's all the external organizations that we, are collaborators with. So introducing him to those is going to take, more than a month or two because they only meet once in a while. So if they meet, I'll be introducing them to key players such as the airport authority, the vice state, the tax lawyer, and so on. So anyhow, welcome to have him on board. He'll find his way, and he's good at it. So it's great. I did want to mention, though, going back to the issue, the commission mentioned this, but played an integral role that was recognized by Newcom in terms of pulling that organization together, which was incredibly significant by those who have been around much longer than I. For the work that he did there, and I want that on the record as well, is that, they serve a vital function in communities here in the Quad Cities, especially those restaurant numbers, and much to his credit, he was responsible, maybe not single, but significantly, for the control and making that transition. And it was a difficult time both politically and administratively to do that, so kudos to him. Can't give you enough kudos. Give you some time. Moline 150 is less than a week away. Tuesday next week, of course, is the mayoral election. Monday, sorry. Avenue Street, right? So Monday is mayoral election, and hope you can all be there. All current former elected officials and current board and commission members for the city of Florida City as partners will all be invited. So we're looking forward to having that take place Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We have the trolley, historic trolley, going out both days. And people will be able to register to do that. I think the Eventbrite, so it's going to be first come, first served because there's only so many runs and so many seats. So that's going to be available, and there's going to be people such as David Sears and John Deere, a number of other historic individuals who actually are participating on those trolleys, letting in historical facts about Moline. So we're interested. When that's done, then everything really kicks off on Thursday. We have a touch truck event. Everybody's excited about that touch truck event. The kids probably, especially, they get to see them go by, but they never get to touch them. So really a great opportunity for them to put the kids out. And maybe we can do some recruiting where you never know how good they are. You never know. Get it in their heads that it's great business. Much to our surprise, the Rock Island Arsenal all excited about this as much as John Deere. And they heard about the touch truck event, so they're bringing over some of their military equipment as well for the children and the adults. Do at least see, I don't know, if you can touch, maybe you can touch, I don't know. But usually I don't touch military equipment against the rules. But they will be here, and they've engaged us, the general, the new base garrison commander, the colonel. They're all excited about what's going on and partnering with the city. So that's happening. Then there'll be the kickoff after that at 11 o'clock. Our mayor will be singing the national anthem.
You let the cat out of the bag.
Well, nobody's heard you sing yet. No, it's on the agenda. So we're going to be...
I didn't volunteer.
They were dragged to it, so... bring your phones and record the moment.
Oh my gosh.
I'm certainly going to TikTok it and YouTube it.
No
I'm really excited about it. I'm sharing with everybody I know.
No pressure.
No pressure, man. No pressure. We'll be standing in front of the
Okay,
stage.
just to set expectations, it'll be way more like Renee Fleming at New York at the Super Bowl than it would be like Terry Underwood. Just
pull that up.
Check your expectations. Anyway.
No, anyhow, so we have that going on, and then we've got, of course, there'll be some speakers from John Deere, and then there'll be speakers from the Old National Bank, the old first Midwest Bank, to speak, and then we launch into the music. The activities are nonstop. Between the community stage down by the Pavilion and the main stage down by the Tax Later Center, it goes back and forth. So there's going to be that happening. There'll be a chalk festival for the young children going on. The great lawn between the Tax Layer and the New Wyndham Hotel. The old former Edison. I mean, there'll be activities there for the kids as well. Balloon artists. There's all types of things. It's really spectacular family event. The community is all hyped up. When you talk to people, they're very hyped. I will tell you that we are providing ASL language interpreters as necessary. That issue arose. I don't know if you've heard anything about it, but we've battered that around quite a bit in terms of how to address that based on Title II of the ADA. So we're going to be providing those services for those who need them, for the deaf. So we'll be doing that throughout the week to accommodate people with disabilities. So that issue. Pretty much everybody got what they wanted. But we're doing a great job pulling everything together. So looking forward to seeing everybody there. And if you look for me, I'll be wearing a Hawaiian shirt, something really colorful so that you can spot me in the crowd. Manage this car and dress up. So somebody's got to take it. Other than that, we've got a lot going on. Carol, of course, is getting into the budget season right now, and full bids are opening the 15th May. So we have a lot happening. Full bids. Bring something forward on 30th. Expected to be fire station. And the architectural firm recommended for that. I'm sorry you won't be here, Mike. At least get your big wall or something for the wall here.
I'll be fishing and smoking a doobie.
Mike, you kill me. You are killing me.
I'm going to stop right there. Thank you.
All right, any public comments?
Lori's definitely going to win.
Yeah.
Your Honor, I make a motion to pass the convene in executive session purposes for discussion of appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, 5 ILCS 120/2C1, and property acquisition, 5 ILCS 120/2A5.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Williams, seconded by Alderman Glenn. Roll call, please.
Alderman Timian. Moyer.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Waldron.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Williams.
Aye.
Macias.
Aye.
Went.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays.
Going into closed session. Thank you, everyone.